Aquí vamos. Aquí vamos. Bueno, y feliz lunes. Feliz día de Martin Luther King. Y feliz lunes. Y es una clase que no es muy oficial, pero no importa mucho. So since this is an unofficial class, since, you know, it's not scheduled, I'm just going to keep it to 1 hour. And I've kind of decided, except for one really planned thing, because I got one question in that was a good, provided a good planned idea. Well, maybe no, I kind of lied, 2 little planned things. I'm going to kind of run this as open question, throw it open day, since it's an unofficial lesson. And I don't want to do something where, you know, somebody feels like, oh no, I missed something in sequence. So the homework you have set up for will be to present for next week, because I don't want people to be missing out and, you know, all that. Okay. ¿Qué vamos a hacer? I did get a great question from one of your compañeras de clase, one of your
classmates.
Yeah, companions from class, your classmates. Actually, 2 questions that came up on Duolingo. So after I go through these 2 questions, we'll open it up to anything else that you've got. And I've got some other additional kind of fun watching information for you. Okay, primero, la pregunta es, y voy a escribir la pregunta. I'm going to write the question so that you see why she had this question. La pregunta se trata de una pregunta. The question is about a question. She got something on Duolingo, and it said they wanted you to translate something, and well, okay. And what they wanted translated, aquí está, was how many dolls, I know, you may not be asking that, is your grandfather buying for you? Okay. And she was kind of a little bit flummoxed because of the word order. And the question she proposed was, ¿cuántas muñecas? There's your word for doll. ¿Cuántas muñecas tu abuelo te compra? Which was actually pretty decent. And I have to say, if you said that to somebody, they would understand your meaning, but the word order would sound funny to them. So they'd have to pause a beat and think a little bit. So the correct way, correct way would be, it's actually, ¿cuántas muñecas
te compra
tu abuelo? So, okay, some of you may be confused by this word te. And somebody needs to go on mute. Sorry about that. But somebody's got sound reading through. Gracias. Okay. Bien. Okay. Entonces, so, some of you may be a little confused by that word te. That word te just means for you. It doesn't say who's doing the action. It's just for you. So let's take that little more confusing part out, because that part is actually not the core of the confusion. The confusion was, do you set it up as, or do you say it as, ¿cuántas muñecas tu abuelo compra, or cuántas muñecas compra tu abuelo? And why do we have abuelo so far in the back of the question? Well, because what happens is verbs in a question in Spanish generally move up. They move up. So, and by move up, I mean they lead off. Okay. In English, we we use one of these two words to lead off a question if it's a yes, no question. Do or does. Do you have money? Does he know the address? Does he drive or take public transportation? Okay. Do we fill out this form? And that word do has nothing, no relationship whatsoever to the action of filling out the form or driving or, you know, whatever the action of the question is. The do or the does in English is just kind of a tag there that signals to somebody, oh, I'm going to ask you about something. I'm not going to tell you a statement of fact. I'm going to ask you about something. So that's what happens in English. But in Spanish, quite often what happens is in a question, the verb is always going to move up front. So in this, and this is the most complicated kind of question because it's got an interrogative and we're asking about a thing. So the short answer to that question that somebody had was, what happens? How come it's not ¿Cuántas muñecas tu abuelo compra? How come it's compra in front? How many dolls buys your grandpa? Why is buys there? Well, because in Spanish, if I have an interrogative, that will be in the front part of the question, a who, what, when, where, why word. But the verb is going to follow very, very close to that. So for this first little question that got thrown out there, we're going to take a quick look at kind of a review on how you form a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do we form questions and why do we do it that way and all that good stuff? Because there's more than one way to formulate a question depending on how you set it up. So we're going to take a look at this and it's pretty easy to see. Oh, pero no. It's not easy to see because I've got to plug in the share button. Okay, a ver. So, and I've got to take that off first. Okay, let's try one more time. Una vez más. Una vez más. Okay, aquí. All right, you see the little guy with the question mark? Sí, ¿pueden ver? ¿Pueden ver? Okay, magnifico. Okay, so we're going to look at, because, you know, really, this is a survival thing for anybody who learns Spanish. Well, how do you ask a question? And, you know, you can kind of try to do it with sign language, you know, if you're limited and you can get by. But what you want to do is to be able to ask a question quickly so that you can, you know, somebody totally knows what you're asking about. Okay, a ver.
Forming questions in Spanish.
Are you wondering how to ask questions in Spanish? Well, today you will learn all about it. One way to form a question in Spanish is to raise the pitch of your voice at the end of a declarative sentence.
So if you just have a yes/no question, something where you get a yes/no answer, all right, you can take the absolute easiest route. Here's the easiest way. Instead of changing anything with word order, just keeping it as a sentence, but letting the pitch of your voice go this way at the end, which isn't hard because we think of that and doing that in English as well. Okay, so, but listen to the pitch, meaning how the voice goes up and down.
Ustedes trabajan los sábados.
That's a statement. Ustedes trabajan los sábados. And we fall on, the pitch falls on the word sábados. Ustedes trabajan los sábados. Now we're going to use the same word order and just turn it into a question, and everybody would know you mean a question, not a statement.
Ustedes trabajan los sábados?
And the voice goes up at the end. So that's what we mean by pitch, all right? Your voice goes up, all right? Ustedes trabajan los sábados. And we didn't change anything with what order the words are in. Yay! That's great for a yes/no question, all right? And anybody will always understand that.
Another way to form a question in Spanish is to invert the order of the subject and verb of a statement.
So inverting means changing the order, switching it, flipping it, okay? And this is what I mean by the verb coming up first. Because this is actually, para mí, en mi opinión, esto es más común. In my opinion, this is much more common. This is much, much more common.
Ustedes trabajan los sábados. ¿Trabajan ustedes los sábados?
So the actual classic or much more usual way to ask this question is to say, yeah, you know what? Switch where the words go. And that means in a yes/no question, the verb comes first. Just like in a yes/no question, the word do or does in English comes first. So think of the verb as the do or does with the action all rolled into one. All right. So instead of ustedes trabajan los sábados, trabajan ustedes los sábados. Or remember, people may leave out that word ustedes. If you're looking at 2, 3 people, you're standing all together and somebody's looking straight at you guys, they'll often just say the same question as, ¿trabajan los sábados? And the ustedes is understood. So just know they may drop that you word, they may drop it. But notice what happens if I include the you word, the ustedes word, it doesn't lead off anymore. In most cases with a yes/no question, it'll slide somewhere behind, usually right behind the verb, usually right behind. But it kind of depends on how complicated your question is. Okay, it could be a little further back, depende. You know, if I slip in extra information like trabajan mucho ustedes los sábados, do you work a lot? You know, that mucho may really follow the verb because it logically kind of combines with the verb better.
The third way to form questions in Spanish is to add tags to the end of a statement.
And these are literally called tag questions. And a tag means you're just popping it on like you had a Post-it note. Boom, I'm just sticking it on the end. All right, and these also are super, super common with Spanish speakers. They're very frequently used.
Ustedes trabajan los sábados. Ustedes trabajan los sábados, ¿no? Ustedes trabajan los sábados, ¿verdad?
And no or verdad are equally common, either one. People use them both, no importa. doesn't
Remember
matter.
to use 2 question marks when writing all Spanish questions.
Okay, if you're speaking, this doesn't matter, but know that when you see it, of course, you'll get an upside down question mark
An
to
upside down
start.
question mark at the beginning of a sentence and a regular question mark at the end of the sentence.
And again, that's just a visual thing they use grammatically for writing, so it doesn't matter when you're speaking.
¿Dibujas mucho? Note that in Spanish, no can mean both no and not. So, when answering a question in the negative, you should use no twice. No.
And well, yeah, you kind of should use no twice. That's classically true. Although again, shortcuts, you know that when we answer a question, yes or no, we start out with the yes or no. Sí. Sí, trabajo. Sí, dibujo. Aquí no es trabajo. Sí, dibujo mucho. No, no dibujo mucho. Okay. No, no dibujo mucho. Often it's done as a double negative. Double negatives are very blessed and wonderful and approved, fully approved. You can have double negatives in Spanish. You can have triple negatives in Spanish. You can have all kinds of negatives all over the place. Negatives do not negate each other. It's not mathematical in Spanish. 2 negatives don't make a positive. The more negative is, the more negative the idea is if you really want to be negative. So they like multiple no's. But usually if you answer a question negatively, you'll start off with a no, comma, no, no dibujo mucho. But that second no is important, okay? Anytime you're saying any sentence as a negative statement, the no always has to slide in front of that verb. No tengo mucho dinero. No trabajamos mucho un día feriado. We don't work much on a holiday. No tengo luz. I don't have light. Algo así. Something like that. Okay.
Yo no dibujo mucho.
Question words.
The questions we just covered require a simple yes or no answer. Now, we'll talk about questions that require more complex answers.
So sometimes we don't ask yes, no questions. Sometimes we need a lot of information back. How much money do you have? The answer is not yes, because it doesn't answer how much. Yeah. So I would have students say, how come you marked this wrong? When do you eat lunch? Yes. It doesn't answer the question. That's a real basic problem. So anytime we have what we call interrogatives, and that means question words, who, what, when, where, why, then you're asking for more
To
information.
compose this type of-
And that interrogative word or combination words, porque is 2 words, it will come up front. It will lead off as we do in English.
question, use Spanish interrogative words. Here are a few examples. ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo estás?
Fácil, easy.
¿Qué? ¿Qué clases tomas? ¿Dónde? ¿Dónde compras tus libros?
Where do you buy your
¿Cuándo?
books?
¿Cuándo termina la clase?
When does class finish? When does class end?
Termina.
Yeah, termina looks like terminate. It means terminate it, but we don't say terminate because that sounds really formal in English. When does class end? When does class finish up, right?
Let's look at an example from the fotonovela.
Juan Carlos, ¿quién enseña la clase de química este semestre?
Juan Carlos. And oh, they're very fans in Spanish language of using double names, you know, your first and second name, your middle name. Juan Carlos, who's teaching? ¿Quién enseña? Who, ¿quién, a question word. Enseña is the verb, teaches. ¿Quién enseña? Who teaches chemistry class this semester? Juan
last
Carlos no
thing,
sabe. Juan
when
Carlos doesn't
pronouncing
know.
a question that uses an interrogative word, the pitch of your voice falls at the end of the sentence. Repeat this question after me.
So the pitch of your voice is a little different with an interrogative, a question word. It goes down more instead of going up, okay? It kind of goes up on the question word.
¿Por qué estudias en la biblioteca? Excelente.
Okay, y eso es todo. That is it for that. Vamos a practicar un poquito. Let's think of some different ways we can maybe form some questions to practice that. Para practicar, por ejemplo.
Marilyn,
Sí, sí.
which one is your, the one that you recommend using, or?
I recommend, lo que yo recomiendo, les recomiendo, what I advise for you. Depende. It really does depend. I will tell you that thing of like not changing anything with the word order, but just letting your voice goes up at the end is okay if you're stuck. But any of the other 3 patterns are very common. It really depends on the information you need to get. Okay, so let's look over that with an example. Okay, a ver, vamos a ver. Let's take a look at a way this may actually play out. Let's take aceptar. Aceptar es un cognado. This is a cognate. Aceptar, ¿sí? Aceptar es
Aceptar a verb.
to accept. To accept, meaning you will take something, right? Okay.
Yeah, to accept. Aceptar.
Por ejemplo, and let's conjugate it for usted. So it's a regular verb. You don't have to think about any weird vowels in the middle changing. Just, ¿cómo se dice? You accept, and we're going to use it with usted. Usted.
Aceptar.
Acepta. Perfecto. Acepta. You want to ask somebody, do you take a card for payment instead of cash?
Tu aceptar. Aceptas.
Well, you could use
Una-
aceptas, but you're probably in a store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Acepto tarjeta de crédito.
Okay. And okay. So you won't even have to say de crédito, probably.
Tarjeta.
Yeah, tarjeta. Usted, yeah, usted acepta tarjeta. Do you accept a card for payment? You know, you're at the end of your transaction, right? Usted acepta tarjeta? Here's the first
No.
method. Usted acepta tarjeta?
No,
And my voice goes-
nunca.
Well, you want to know if they take a card. And the reason you can skip, okay, you can say tarjeta de crédito, you can, but you know, remember, some people use a debit card instead. So usually, you know, they'll shorten it to just the tarjeta part because they don't really care if it's a debit or credit. They just care that they get the money, right? No les importa. They don't care. So, ¿usted acepta tarjeta? That's one way to do it. How about if we put it as a tag question?
In progress.
Ooh,
Verdad.
we keep that
Very
word
good.
order the same. ¿Usted acepta tarjeta, no? Punctuation is the worst when I have to switch keyboards. Usted, tarjeto, momento. I got fat finger going on big time here today. Usted acepta tarjeta, no? Or usted acepta tarjeta, ¿verdad? So again, I don't have to really switch anything around. Okay. What if I want to flip the order? This tag question is actually just fine, and it's very common. This is okay, but I would say use it if it's a last resort and you know your brain just can't get it out fast enough. But do get used to flipping the verb up front. So how does this change the way we express that question if we move the verb up front? We're going to not do a tag question. We're going to move the verb up front.
Acepta usted tarjeta.
Exacto. ¿Acepta usted tarjeta? ¿Acepta usted tarjeta? Bien. Okay. Vale. Magnífico. Let's say you want to know who in this area actually accepts cards. Who does that?
¿Quién?
¿Quién? We need a quién. ¿Quién es who, no? ¿Quién acepta tarjeta?
Yeah.
¿Sí? And you might say,
Barrio.
in este barrio, in this neighborhood, right? Or on this block or whatever. Okay? Bien?
And you wouldn't say quien acepta de tarjeta? You don't use de.
You don't use which one, Donita?
De tarjeta, de.
Oh, la
La,
¿Ala?
de tarjeta?
Oh, de tarjeta. No, no,
No? Oh, okay.
no. I am going to show you. Okay, nobody probably is going to ask this.
Oh,
Acepta usted en efectivo, because everybody accepts cash.
mhm.
Right? The opposite of card is cash, efectivo. So we probably won't ask that as this question. Efectivo, you may hear as dinero en efectivo, and then it gets an N. That little combo gets an N. Yeah, but okay. Bien. If you want to know who accepts a card and you think it's more than one store, it becomes what kind of who instead of just quién.
¿Quiénes?
¿Quiénes? Un momento.
¿Quiénes? ¿Sí?
¿Quiénes? And then what would happen with acepta?
Aceptan.
Aceptan. ¿Quiénes aceptan tarjeta? Aquí, here, okay.
Yeah.
Or aquí, here, or por aquí. Por aquí might be even a little better. Around here. Por aquí turns it into around here, meaning in this general area. ¿Quiénes aceptan tarjeta por aquí? Okay. ¿Quiénes aceptan? Keep in mind that who has a onesie form, who has a 2Z form or 3Z, 4Z, whatever. ¿Sí? ¿Quiénes aceptan? Okay. Bien. ¿Entienden? Understand? ¿Sí?
Sí.
Okay. Okay. Bien. Bueno, ustedes entienden, ¿no?
Sí.
Sí,
Sí.
yo entiendo.
Sí, entiendo. Claro, entiendo. Okay, magnifico. So that takes care of our little question query. But there is another one, which was sort of an interesting question that was posed. Hay otra pregunta. Y tengo que buscar cuál es la pregunta. Un momentito. Bien. Otra pregunta de Duolingo. Here comes another Duolingo question. Y dice, it says, la pregunta es, como por ejemplo, Lucy is walking on the street. And she said, why did I get this answer? Lucy va caminando por la calle.
Yeah.
¿Por qué? Why this thing? Wait a minute, va caminando. Can't I just say Lucy camina? Sí, en la calle.
Yeah.
Can't I just say that? Lucy camina en la calle. Yeah, Lucy's walking on the street. That works, actually. That works. Lucy camina en la calle. There, you could also instead, but camina means it's going on right now. Caminar es walk, ¿verdad? Okay, vale. Pero, si queremos saber if we want to kind of convey this idea of walking in a more fluid way, meaning it's happening right now as we are speaking. Oh, I'm looking out the window and there she goes. It's got to be that meaning. I'm looking out the window and there goes Lucy. I could say, Lucia, está caminando en la calle. And actually, I do like por la calle better. Por la calle is better because por la calle means along the street or down the street. Por is a very hard word to translate sometimes because it can mean through, it can mean along, meaning, going in a parallel direction. Está caminando por la calle. She's walking along the street. She's walking down the street. And the está caminando means is walking. But in Spanish, where in English, we're very free with using the is doing, is cooking, is sewing, is teaching, is studying. And it might not necessarily mean exactly at this minute, but in Spanish, when we use está caminando, that activity really should be going on as the speaker is saying it. But they used a different thing. They didn't even use está caminando. They used va caminando. ¿Y por qué? Why? Va es
Going walking.
going walking. So the va caminando is a very common thing that is used. And I found a very, very good little video on va. And she just shortens it to va without going through all the forms of va. Va comes from ir. She's going to explain that to you. A lot of times we can substitute instead of está that word va, especially when it's a verb of motion. And it gives it a more fluid feel. That word va, that's all it
Is
does.
that for when it's happening right now?
Usually this is going to mean it's
Va.
going on right now as we're talking about it. Sí, bien. Bueno, dime, Cindy.
I don't understand why you have to use va or está, because doesn't caminando mean it's happening right now?
It does. Yeah, it can. Yes, it can. It can. So Camina, if we look back at this word Camina, right? Camina can be translated as walks, does walk, or is walking. So that is walking is in there. See, Camina can mean is walking. But in Spanish, if you change it to the true, what we call progressive, meaning it's in progress, how we speak. In Spanish, progressive is used when the action is in progress while we're talking about it. And that's kind of a departure from English, because I can say, oh, I'm driving to Chandler tomorrow. And it's not going on right now, is it? But I can say I'm driving to Chandler tomorrow. Okay. And the I'm driving to Chandler tomorrow would be more like this kind of is walking. Yeah, because it's not happening right now. It's got to be going on at the time we're speaking. That's why it's called present progressive. Okay, bien. So this gives an immediacy. ¿Entiendes, Cindy? Yeah? Gives an
Did we have this as part of that before? Because I do remember that caminando, the ando,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And we've seen a little bit of that. Yeah. So for those of you who are new to this idea, this little ando, which is kind of a suffix, I guess you could say, yeah, or yendo, is what we use for AR verbs or for ER and IR verbs. If we want to say the idea of in English of ing, okay, ing. And this is called in language speak. In grammar speak, it's called a gerund, okay, an ing structure. I cannot use this as a noun, by the way, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So in other words, if I say, estamos comiendo. And my fingers really don't want to type today. Estamos comiendo. Comiendo comes from comer, and we just use estar, and the comiendo stays comiendo, no matter who does it. Estamos comiendo. I can only say if somebody else, hey, what time are we eating? Hey, honey, what time we eating? We're eating at 6. I can't say estamos comiendo a las 6 because it's not 6 o'clock. We're not doing it right now. Yeah. After everybody gets to the table, ahora estamos comiendo. Well, now we're eating. Or the robocall comes in at 6:05. Estamos comiendo, no puedo hablar. Yeah, we're eating, I cannot talk. Because it's going on at that time. And then I can say, estamos comiendo. Okay.
So then how would you say we are eating at 6 o'clock?
We will.
Comemos a las 6.
Comemos.
al-
Okay, comemos. We are.
Then I flip back into plain old present tense.
Okay.
Because present tense indicates a habit
Yeah. Okay.
too.
And,
Okay.
and how do you decide between present tense and I will, the future tense? In other words, see, comer or
Because-
the coming
We will
out.
be eating.
Right.
How
Bien, bien,
do
bien,
you
bien, bien.
decide between those?
Okay. Bien. So yes, that comemos can mean we eat, we do eat, we are eating. Future, or excuse me, present tense is also sometimes used, thrown in there as kind of a very near future thing. So where we say we're eating, we will eat at 6. It'll be either comemos a las 6 because you know you're close to 6 o'clock. Let's say it's 3 o'clock. Comemos a las 6 is aceptable. It's acceptable. Or vamos a comer a las 6. Igual. Okay. Same thing. Comemos a las 6 is absolutely equivalent to vamos a comer. Vamos a comer makes it a little more like flat out, oh, it's future because we're going to do this. So, you know, people know for sure. Bien. Does that make sense now? See?
And what about the comeremos? We will eat, or does the will have?
Oh, there's an
there's
actual true future tense.
Yes.
There's a
because
true future tense. So if you, okay, where we use will or shall, I guess, right? In English, strictly speaking, there is a way to do that in Spanish. And in Spanish, that keeps the whole infinitive. It does not ditch the AR, ditch the ER, get rid of the IR. It does not get rid of that. It just puts an ending on the end of it. Comeremos. I will tell you, comeremos is a little more common in Spain Spanish,
Okay.
but not used as much in conversation in Mexican Spanish.
So they use the present tense for a lot of, because that's what I was dinged on all the time in Duolingo. I was using the real future tense and they're saying, no, no, no.
Yeah, well, because there is a true future tense, and in Mexico, it's used more in writing. So like you'll read it in print in the newspaper, or you'll hear it when people are talking about things that are really like out there in the future, not within the next couple hours.
Right.
You know, in true conversational Spanish, this vamos ir a and the infinitive is much, much, much more common.
Oh, okay.
Much more common than the
Vamos
true future
comer.
tense.
Okay.
Okay, not to say you'll never hear Mexican Spanish speakers using it, but in conversationally, yeah, not so much. Maybe if the event is way out, like far into the future, a year from now, several months from now, yeah, then I may throw that in. But if it's what we're going to do tomorrow or a couple of hours from now, probably not. Probably what they'll conversationally use is that and not the true future tense. So, bien,
See,
¿sí? ¿Claro? Ok. Vale. Magnífico. A ver. Okay. Let's take a look. Vamos a ver. Let's take a look at something else. Un video. Let's look at some of the little permutations and things that may happen with ir. And more specifically, she really breaks this down into not just ir, but va, a really specific thing. So, lo que deben saber, what you should know is that ir means to go. And the forms of ir are very irregular because when we conjugate a verb, of course, we take off the AR, we take off the ER, we take off the IR. And sadly, when we take off the EIR, the IR from ir, we got a whole lot of nothing left. So yeah, that's not very satisfying, is it? So ir is very irregular. Ir, all of them start with the letter B chica. They all start with a V. Voy, I'm going, voy. Vas, you're going. See, an S on the end does not mean plural with a verb. An S on the end means a tú form. Vas, you're going. Va, he's going. Va, she's going. Va, usted, you're going, right? The formal you. Vamos, we're going, or let's go. And van, with an N at the end, which means now, oh, more than one person. Van. Ellos van, ellas van, ustedes van, okay? So she's gonna shorten this to just va, but some special ways that we use va. Oh, perdón, I need to put Sharon. A ver, aquí. Bien. Okay.
To Learn Spanish y How to Spanish podcast. ¿Alguna vez has escuchado la palabra va? Se usa mucho en español, especialmente español de Latinoamérica. Te voy a explicar qué significa y algunas frases que puedes usar para sonar más como un hablante nativo.
Okay, and what she says that we use va a lot in Mexican Spanish in particular, but really all over Spanish. And these are going to be special uses of va, not just the va that you saw with va caminando, but more than that, okay?
Si eres nuevo en nuestro canal, te recomiendo que te suscribas porque
Okay.
y
Let's get through
avanzados.
the-
En español, a veces son las palabras chiquitas las que son más confusas.
In Spanish, sometimes the tiniest word, chiquitas. Yeah, Chico is a boy or a girl, right? Chico, chica, boy or girl, but we use the word Chico in Mexican Spanish, especially for meaning small in size, see? It's the little words that mess us up. Isn't that always true? It's the little words that mess us up, yeah?
Oh,
The
yeah.
little words that mess us up, se or ya or por, these itty bitty tiny words, and you understand everything else, but then it was like, what does that change it to? Why does por you, what, way, say, what the heck is that? Okay.
A veces la gente las usa todo el tiempo
And people
y
use
no
it all the
entiendes
time.
exactamente qué significa porque no
And you don't know
está
what it
en un
exactly
diccionario.
means.
Es el caso de la palabra va.
And this is the
Vamos a
case with va.
explicar cómo se usa esta palabra y qué expresiones puedes usar. Lo primero que quiero decir es que va realmente es el verbo ir.
Va is really from the verb ir, to go.
Has escuchado el verbo ir, ¿no? Cuando tú dices voy a la escuela, estás usando el verbo ir. Pues
Voy a la escuela, I'm going to school, right?
va es una conjugación del verbo ir. Cuando tú escuchas que alguien, especialmente un mexicano, te dice va, sin más contexto, solamente
So if you may hear somebody just say va and no other context. What the heck? Go? Are they telling me to go? What are they doing? Va. And notice it's an exclamation. Va. Va. This is something that Mexicans do a lot. Okay. No other context, just that word by itself. What the heck are they talking about?
la palabra va significa ok. Es una manera
It means okay. Va. Okay, all right.
de decir ok. Cabe decir que en español usamos muchísimo la palabra ok. Es normal
And Spanish uses okay too. It's kind of been borrowed, but well, kind of. It has been borrowed from English.
decirla. Y hay muchas otras formas de decir ok, como vale, sale.
So here are all different ways, all different words that can mean okay, besides okay. You will hear people saying okay, but va, vale, sale, those all, if they're just like out of context with nothing else tagged onto the end of it, the person is telling you, okay, va, vale, sale. They all mean okay. I can't tell you why, they just do.
sale, pero particularmente en México, va. Así que si tú le sugieres a alguien un plan, por ejemplo, oye,
So if you suggest a plan of something to do to somebody, she says,
vamos al cine el viernes,
oh, let's go, vamos al cine. Let's go to the movies. Vamos al cine el viernes. Let's go to the movies on Friday.
y la otra persona te dice, va, significa sí, sí quiero.
Okay. If you say, vamos al cine el viernes, let's go to the movies on Friday, and somebody replies to you, va. They're telling you sí. Yes, they're agreeing with you. Va.
Va.
Quiero ir contigo al cine. Muchas veces cuando alguien tiene un plan genial o una idea genial, vamos a repetir la palabra va muchas veces para
Okay. A lot of times it won't be just ba. It'll be ba 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 ba. It'll be like that. A bunch of them. Because that makes it better, I guess.
mostrar que estamos muy emocionados o
Oh, we want to show that you're
que nos
excited.
parece
Yeah.
una gran idea. Así que si yo tengo muchas ganas de comer pizza y David me dice, oye, ¿compramos una pizza? Yo
Oh, if I want to eat pizza and my husband says, hey, shall we go get a pizza? And I'll be like, yeah, 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 yeah.
no solamente le voy a decir va una vez, le voy a decir va, va, va muchas veces.
Ba ba ba. Yeah. That means like, I'm excited about this. Ba ba ba. Yeah. So you may hear ba that way. Not just ba caminando, but ba ba ba. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. It's
Al
ba.
menos 3 veces. Ahora,
At least 3
también
times.
va existe en forma de pregunta. A veces las personas te van a decir, ¿cómo te va? ¿Cómo
¿Cómo te va? Ooh, can I move this? I can move this. ¿Cómo te va? How's it going for you? This is another way we use ba. ¿Cómo te va? How's it going for you? And the it going refers to what? Whatever is happening.
Anything.
Yeah, exacto. Any old thing that's going on. Okay, she's going to explain a little more.
te va? Van a añadir la palabra te antes de va. Y lo que eso significa es, how are you doing? How's life? What's up? ¿Cómo te va? Para responder esto, lo único que tienes que hacer es cambiar la palabra te por me.
So the way we respond is the te in the question, ¿cómo te va? Becomes a me in the answer. Me va bien.
Entonces, ¿cómo te va? Me va bien. Usamos me va bien, me va mal, me va más o menos.
So, let me back that up. So, you may get different reactions depending on how well your thing is going on, right? ¿Cómo te va? Me va bien, me va mal, me va más o menos. Not great, not terrible. So. Bien?
Me va más o menos. Así es como respondemos esta pregunta. Si estás hablando con alguien de forma más formal y amable, en lugar de te, puedes decir le. ¿Cómo le va? La siguiente pregunta, pon mucha atención porque es un poco complicado.
So do know that instead of como te va, if you're speaking politely, it becomes como le va, le, instead of te. If you don't call that person by their first name, como le va? How's it going for you?
La siguiente pregunta es muy similar a la número 2, pero no tiene la palabra te o me, simplemente cómo vas. Y allí el verbo cambia, vas. En los ejemplos anteriores solo usamos va. Va o cómo te va, cómo le va, cómo nos va. Va no cambió. Pero hay una situación en donde sí necesitamos conjugar el verbo. Entonces sería para yo voy, tú vas.
So here are all the
ella,
forms of
usted
ir.
va, ellos, ellas, ustedes
Voy,
van y
vas,
nosotros
va, van,
vamos.
vamos.
Usamos la pregunta ¿cómo vas? Para varias situaciones. La más común es cuando estamos hablando de cosas de trabajo. Tal vez tu
Usually the como vas is used when we're talking about work of some kind.
amigo necesita terminar un proyecto muy grande en su
Let's say you've got a
trabajo.
big
Y tú quieres
project.
saber how is he doing?
And you want to know how somebody is doing on their project, like right now, they may use the como va or como vas.
ese proyecto específico, como how long are you still going to work on this? O how is the project going? En ese caso puedes decirle, ¿cómo vas? Y esa persona va a decirte, voy bien, voy mal, el proyecto va bien.
So notice there are a couple ways we can do this. I keep trying to move this here. Here we go. Muy bien. I know it says I'm going well, but yeah, I'm moving along okay. Yeah. Muy mal. Oh, it's not going so great. El proyecto va bien. This last one is less confusing. So I would suggest, yeah, el proyecto va bien. The project's going well. Right? Así es. Ok. A ver.
Algo por el estilo. También cuando sabemos que alguien está pasando por un momento difícil, puede ser un problema
somebody's
con su
going through
familia
kind of a
o
tough time.
especialmente enfermedad.
Like they're
Supongamos
sick,
que tú sabes que tu
they're
amigo
depressed.
está enfermo y está en casa y tú quieres saber how he's doing. Entonces puedes decirle, ¿cómo vas? No le estoy preguntando cómo te va porque ese es how are you doing in general in life. Si le pregunto cómo vas, estoy preguntando específicamente de su problema. How is
Okay, so the como vas also can talk about, if you've got a problem going on, how are you doing? How are you doing?
this thing going? Como how are you doing in this particular thing or problem? Puede ser más específico. Por ejemplo, yo tengo una perrita nueva y mis papás
And she's saying,
generalmente
I've got
me
a new
preguntan,
doggy.
¿cómo vas con las perritas?
This is something we're going to practice. ¿Cómo vas con las perritas? How you doing with the doggies? Because her parents knew she was training the new doggies and all that kind of stuff, right? Getting them used to a new home. ¿Cómo vas con las perritas? How's it going with those doggies? How are you doing with those doggies? Perritas, because she's got two of them. ¿Cómo vas? How you doing with that? Because it's a project, getting the dogs used to a new house.
How are you doing with the dogs? ¿Cómo vas con las perritas? Así que si quieres preguntar sobre la escuela, por ejemplo, a tu amigo, puedes preguntarle, ¿cómo vas con la escuela?
¿Cómo vas con la escuela? How are you doing with school?
Listo, estos son 3 de los usos más comunes de la palabra va. Recuerda que puedes descargar.
Ok. Vale. Bueno, vamos a ver una práctica. Vamos a ver algo para practicar. Let's put this into practice. Vamos a practicar. Por ejemplo, and we may throw in a te or a le or a le. So I got to put on my share screen on so you can see what I'm seeing. Vale, magnífico. And remember, how are they doing with that patient? El paciente.
¿Cómo van?
¿Cómo van? How are you guys doing? Because there are hay dos enfermeras. Sí, hay dos. Hay dos enfermeras. ¿Cómo van con
Paciente.
el paciente? ¿Cómo van con el paciente? ¿Cómo van con el paciente? Aquí. Fix it up job. Got to get a little bit creative.
Proyecto.
Proyecto. Let's take that. It's a very generic, great term. How's the project going?
¿Cómo van con las
¿Cómo van con el proyecto?
proyecto?
Sí. ¿Cómo vas? If you're talking to a friend, ¿cómo vas? Sí. We can even say, ¿cómo te va el proyecto? ¿Cómo te va el proyecto? How's that project going for you? ¿Cómo te va el proyecto? Or making it personalized. ¿Cómo vas con el proyecto? ¿Sí?
Ujú.
Ok. A ver. Aquí tenemos. Aquí. Pintura.
Pintura.
Pintar, to paint. How's it going with painting the house?
¿Cómo vas con las pinturas?
¿Cómo vas con, and we can just keep it pintar. ¿Cómo
Con
vas con
pintar.
pintar? Sí.
Con pintar.
¿Cómo vas con pintar la sala? How's it going with painting the living room? ¿Cómo vas con, sí? ¿Cómo vas con pintar la cocina? ¿Cómo vas con pintar la casa?
Ujú.
¿Sí? ¿Bien?
Sí.
Ok. Magnífico. Otra idea. Otra idea es de...
Building.
Can you just say, "Hey, tal"?
Can you say qué tal? Qué buena pregunta. You know what? People do that. Oh, see, you thought this was a silly question and it's not at all. Okay, por ejemplo, let me show you. ¿Qué tal con la pintura? How's it going with the painting? ¿Qué tal con pintar? Yeah, people will just sometimes say ¿qué tal? But see, this puts something extra to put in your pocket that you can mentally pull out when you need it. ¿Cómo te va a pintar la sala? ¿Qué tal la pintura? Sí, aquí, ok, bien. Construcción. Construcción.
La construcción.
Sí, if we're asking about everybody, ¿cómo les va
¿Cómo les va?
la construcción? ¿Cómo les va la construcción? ¿Cómo les va el proyecto? Otra vez es, again, otra vez es un proyecto.
La
¿Sí?
construcción.
Ok. Aquí. Vale, bueno. Aquí. What might we ask here?
Les.
¿Cómo va con la trabajo?
¿Cómo? Sí, ¿cómo vas con el trabajo? ¿Cómo te va? ¿Cómo le va con el trabajo? Muy bien, fantástico. Mi cosa menos favorita, my least favorite thing in the world. And you're talking probably to one person and probably somebody in your house. So it's going to be a familiar.
¿Cómo vas? Limpiar.
¿Cómo vas?
Con limpiar.
Con limpiar
Con limpiar.
la cocina. ¿Cómo vas? Con limpiar la cocina. Sí. Bueno. Otra cosa. Es una lección de tenis.
Lección de tenis. Ok.
Una lección de tenis.
¿Cómo vas con la tenis?
¿Cómo vas con el
La
tenis?
lección.
Tenis.
¿Cómo vas con la
¿Cómo va
lección?
la lección de tenis?
Sí, sí. ¿Cómo te va la práctica de tenis? Hay muchas combinaciones, ¿sí? ¿Cómo te va la práctica de tenis? ¿Cómo te va la lección de tenis? ¿Cómo te va con jugar al tenis? Aquí. Está limpiando o lavando las ventanas.
¿Cuándo por la hora?
¿Otra vez?
How much an hour?
Oh!
Por la hora?
¿Cuánto?
Like if the guy is cleaning your window?
No, the tennis instruction. How much is an hour of teaching?
Oh.
How much
Okay.
does it cost for an hour?
How much does it cost? How would we ask that? ¿Cómo se expresa la pregunta?
¿Cuánto cuesta?
¿Cuánto cuesta? ¿Cuánto cuesta? Sí. I'm going to show you another way to say how much do they charge. We can say cuánto cuesta, es aceptable, it is perfectly acceptable to ask, por ejemplo, uy, tengo que mover la cajita aquí. Okay.
I want to say for an hour, how much is it? Less of an
Okay.
Okay.
¿Cuánto cuesta
Por
la
hora.
lección
Por
de
hora.
una hora?
De una hora. No
¿Cuánto
por
cuesta?
hora. Okay.
¿Cuánto cuesta? And here's a good question. We got a question word. ¿Cuánto? How much? ¿Cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost? And notice they don't even say the word it, because cuesta talks about one thing. ¿Cuánto cuesta una lección de una hora?
Pregunta,
Sí, sí.
why de, not por?
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
Una lección por, se puede, you can say for
Okay.
an hour.
Por hora.
Por.
More than one way you can do that. Sí,
Okay.
sí. Here is another way to ask cuánto cuesta. And this is more like, how much do you charge rather than how much does it cost?
Oh.
There's another verb you often ask. And actually, if you talk to guys who do landscaping or, you know, anything like that, and you want to know how much they charge. Oh, we still need the how much word. So we still need
¿Cuánto cuesta?
cuánto. But instead of cuesta, we're going to plug in a different word instead of
Precio.
cost, like more like charge.
Oh, okay.
Okay. ¿Cuánto me cobra?
Me
How
cobra.
much you charging?
¿Cuánto me cobra? ¿Cuánto me cobra? And this is assuming usted. ¿Cuánto me cobra? ¿Cuánto me cobra este trabajo? Would mean, how much will you charge me?
Me for this work.
How much will you, you know, write me a bill for? ¿Cuánto me cobra? See? And they'll answer that, le or te, depending on how well they know you, right? Cobro, I'll charge you. Le cobro, the polite way, right? Or te cobro, the familiar way. If they see you more than one time a week or more than one time a month, they might go to the familiar te instead of the formal le. Le cobro, y, you know, whatever. Le cobro $50.
Sí.
Le cobro, see? I'll charge you $50 for that. Es así. Yeah, like that. Bien?
Sí.
Por ejemplo, le cobro $50 por lavar las ventanas. ¿Sí? Lavar las ventanas, washing the
Windows.
Así. Bien. Ok. Excelente. Bien. Ok. ¿Mejor? ¿Better? ¿Sí? Ok. Otra pregunta. What other kind of little burning question might you have that is kind of just on your mind right now that I might cover? ¿Hay algo? I think, sí, Cindy.
One question, this is from Duolingo. For some reason, I was thinking with days of the week, you're supposed to use the L before it. You just
Sí.
go right, yes, but they don't do that. So,
Well, that might depend on, so the L, okay, so day of the week, what you're talking about is vamos al cine el viernes, what they use there. We're going, let's go to the movies on Friday, see? And they're using it without el?
yes.
You might hear that sometimes, see? Well, especially if it's just mañana, then it will have to be without a la, just mañana. But vamos al cine viernes. Wow, that to me sounds a little off. Vamos al cine el viernes. On Saturday, do get used to that. But notice how they use it. We don't 100% use el or la in front of days of the week, but we often do whenever you mean on a day of the week. Tenemos clase los lunes. We have class on Mondays, all of them. So it becomes a plural, los lunes. Vamos al supermercado los sábados. Vamos al supermercado los sábados. We go to the supermarket on Saturdays. ¿Sí? Vamos a la iglesia los domingos. We go to church on Sundays. And when you break it down to one, it's el sábado, el domingo. We wind up using the el with a day of the week more often than we do not.
Okay.
Next time that comes up, do a cut and paste or something and just scribble it down and show me the context. I'm trying to think of an example of where we would skip it. There might be times when people may skip it, but often for on, we use the el. Even though el, we don't think of it as meaning on. El with a day of the week means on. El lunes on Monday, el martes on Tuesday, el miércoles on Wednesday, así, like that. Okay, buena pregunta. ¿Qué más? Other burning questions? Or no? Nada. Okay, vale. Si no hay ninguna otra pregunta, if there is no other question, I think we're just going to end it because this was meant to be a shorty class today. Sí, una hora, solamente una hora, una clase de una hora, porque es un día feriado, since it's a holiday, technically. Okay, ¿todo está bien?
Sí.
Sí.
Está bien? Magnífico. Okay, so do make sure you have your little things prepped for next week. See, go back and look, if you need to see that prep work again, let me know and I can resend the email. But, pero vamos a, nos vemos el lunes, que no va a ser ningún día feriado. It won't be a holiday next Monday. ¿Bien?
Gracias.
Muchas
Excelente.
gracias.
De nada. Es un placer. Y nos vemos.
Hasta luego.